Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here today. As have been introduced, I'm Khadija. I'm 23 years of age. I was originally born in Freetown, Sierra Leone, in the west of Africa. If anybody watched Blood Diamond, that was about us. Most people don't know where Sierra Leone is. We actually don't count in the grand scheme of life for most people, but for someone like me, it's actually very personal. My family and I left Sierra Leone in 1998 due to the war. Actually, I was with my mom, my sister, and my dad at the time when the war broke out in 1991 in Sierra Leone. My sister was actually 1 at the time. We call her a war baby because she was born when the war started. So she's never known any other life besides just, I guess, war. She was born into it and she was raised a little bit into war before she left and saw peace. And my father was actually killed during the war, so we had to travel for days on end to another neighboring country, me, my mom, and my sister. And my mom, I have to say, is an amazing woman because she's a perfect image of what survival looks like. We traveled and we got to Guinea, which is next to Sierra Leone. And when we got there, we didn't feel too safe either, so we continued on and we finally ended up in a refugee camp in Gambia. We were in Gambia for 3 years. I have to say, the refugee camp we were in is not what most people would think of. And whatever idea you have of a refugee camp, please throw it out of the window. It's not the best place to be. Nobody wants to be in a refugee camp. It's one of the worst places to be in the world because in most times, your neighbors are actually the people you were running from. So you go to bed with one eye closed, waiting for somebody to kill you, or rape you, or attack you. And this is the situation for women in refugee camps. Most women sometimes have to sell themselves to find a male protector to protect them and their family. My mom luckily had an education, so while we were in Gambia, she was able to teach as a teacher and support us. So we were lucky, and it just shows you the value of education. Because without education, to be honest, I don't know where we would have been or what situations my mom or decisions she would have been forced to make if we didn't have that. So we went Gambia for 3 years, just waiting in limbo for the next option or the next decision to be made. And my mom, being a smart woman, decided to apply for refugee status. And when she applied, we had to tell our story and prove that we were actually genuine refugees, and she was a widow, lost her husband, and had 2 daughters with her. And in her application form, I remember this up to now. Her words were, I just want to provide a better home for my daughters so they can have the life that I never have and will never have. That's all she wanted, a safe place for us to grow up and have a future. That's what she said. She didn't care where we went. She didn't care what part of the world it was. She just wanted us to have the best life possible. We applied, and it took 3 years before we actually had the chance, before they told us we were coming to Australia. We didn't even know where Australia was in the grand scheme of life. And everybody said to us, it was actually when you had the Sydney Olympics a couple of years back, and everybody said to us, you're going to the end of the world. After Australia, there's nowhere else to go. That's it. And we just said to them, it's better than where we are right now. We will go to the end of the world if we had to. I remember it took 3 days to get here. We actually had to go to Gambia, to Senegal, then to France. Oh yes, we went to the French people. From France, we went to Singapore, where we actually just changed planes. And I remember going to the bathroom and trying to open the tap. And we were standing there twisting this knob, trying to get water. And it wasn't working. Then somebody came in, slide their hand, slide it out, and water came. And we said, gee, if this is a sign of what is to come, we're in for a big trouble, aren't we? We got into the plane, got to Sydney, then got to Adelaide. We got off the airport and we looked around and said, where are the people in this place? And then we got to our house and we were still saying, where are the people in this place, seriously? And then we settled in. It was winter. It was actually in June. And it was freezing. But the house they put us in was full of ice cream in the freezer. So here we were shivering, and then we would have the ice cream, eating the ice cream and feeling cold at the same time. Because that's all we had in the fridge. Somebody obviously forgot that we in Africa, we don't have cold weather. But they gave us ice cream, and for us, ice cream is a treat. So even though it was freezing, we would still have this ice cream and freeze our pants off. Then we got into the bathroom and realized open the tap, and hot, scorching water will come down. And we would jump and think, oh my God, what place did they take us? And then I remember one day, my mom was cooking, minding her business, trying to figure out her love for the new Asian shop we found down the road that had African products. Because we were like, finally, hallelujah, something we can eat. And she was cooking away, and then the alarm, the fire alarm went off, or the smoke alarm, I would say. She ran outside with my sister, and then she pushed me inside to go check what was wrong. And I said to her, well, aren't your motherly instincts very strong, telling me to go check if there's a fire in the house? But thank God you didn't leave me behind in Africa then, thank you. But that just shows, So we settled in for a while. I remember then we went, our first trip to Rondo Mall. We thought, finally we decided we were in the wrong place. This was definitely not Australia. We have landed in the wrong place. Somebody got the details wrong. The place was full of Asians. And we said to ourselves, I don't think this is where we're meant to be. Every second person was an Asian in Rondo Mall. And I said to my mom, are you sure we didn't go to the wrong place? So they had to explain to us that our neighbors were Asians. That's why Australia was full of Asians. We said, oh, okay, no worries, that's fine. Oh, sorry. And then, because we were Africans, everybody just assumed all Africans were the same. So we were then put with the East Africans, the Sudanese, the tall, skinny, really black ones. Yeah. And I said to them, I have never seen people so tall in my life, neither so dark in my life. But then everybody forced us to go to these events. And they just assumed because we're Africans, we speak the same language. So here we'll go. We West Africans, as you will know, I'm from Sierra Leone and we're from the West. We're short with big bumps. And we'll go to this event with these tall, dark people, and I'm there with my big bum, and my mom with her big bum, my sister with her big bum. And we'll be sitting there, and then we'll look up and we're thinking, who are these people? We have never seen them. We didn't even know they were Africans as far as I was concerned. I've never been outside of Sierra Leone, so I don't know what other Africans are meant to look like. And they would speak their language and we'll just sit there going, what are they saying? But everybody just thought we were all the same. It took them a while to realize we were not all the same people. And we have never met them. They don't like us. We don't like them very much. That was the end of those events. I mean, my mom decided after that to send me to a girls' school. And she thought girls would be less racist, apparently. So she sent me off to Mitcham Girls High School, 600 students. I was the only black kid there. This was down south in Adelaide. And here I was treated like a guinea pig. Everything I said was weird. I talked weird. I smelled weird, apparently, as well. I didn't know how, but I did. I sounded weird. I sat weird. I walked weird. Everything about me was weird, apparently, according to the girls. So here I was in this school, trying to find my feet. I got bullied. Went through racism for a while there. I remember the teachers making every joke, every topic where bad things happen in the world was from Africa. AIDS was from Africa. The poor people were from Africa. The sick people were from Africa. One day I had enough. I said to my teacher, can you please stop using Africa as your scapegoat for every bad thing in the world? Look at me. I'm a product of all that is good in Africa. Can you just stop telling them I have AIDS already? I don't have AIDS. So she stopped and everybody decided I didn't have AIDS because I was from Africa. So that was the end of that. But the kids, I realized, were mean to me because they have never met an African in their life. And I think sometimes racism comes from fear. Fear of the unknown. It's not that people just want to be mean. I think it's just they're scared of, they don't know all these black, tall, and big bum people are doing in Australia. What they want, whether they're going to steal their husbands or their jobs or take all the resources you have. So they get scared. So they react. I have two choices, I said to myself at the time in this school. I could go become aggressive and behave like those black people they saw in movies who go, you want to fight? I'm going to take my earrings off and now we're going to do it. Or I could actually talk to them and share my story with them and show them that I'm just a human being just like the rest of them. And that's what I did. So I spent 5 years educating my peers about what it meant to be an African. That we wore clothes in Africa. We didn't walk around naked. We don't. And I don't speak animal language. I have never seen a lion or a giraffe before coming to Australia. I don't go to school on a tiger either. You know, actually catch the bus. It's just like when I was in America and people thought we took kangaroos to school. I said, no, we don't. I love to, but no, we don't. And we don't have one president of Africa. It's a continent, people. I had to tell them all of this. But it was a learning process both ways. And by the time I graduated, everything was fine. But while I was in school, when I got to Australia in 2001, I actually got very sick. And I have been sick since then. It was almost like Australia didn't agree with me health-wise. Every other area agreed with me except my health. I developed chronic fatigue. Then I developed chronic pain in my stomach. So at any given time, I could double over in pain, sharp shooting pains. And nobody knows actually why. But while I was sick, I actually hit rock bottom. It was actually at this time that I realized that over the course of my life living in Africa and living through war and living through poverty, I've always had this thing in me that said, there's something I'm brought in this world to do. There's something I'm meant to be doing in this world. And just when I was down, I realized this is my opportunity to do something finally. I mean, I couldn't please my mom anymore. I love my mom dearly, but she has high expectations of me. And I've always wanted to please her. But while I was sick, I couldn't do that. I spent most of my time in the hospital than I spent at school. During my 5 years, I probably think I sat through as few classes as most people could sit through, because I'll go to the hospital in the morning and I'll usually get to school at 1 o'clock, which, as most people who will know, is after lunchtime. So I actually would sit through 2 classes before the day was over. But I couldn't avoid this. I just got sick so much. I always had to be at the hospital. Or my mom would get called to come and pick me up because I would have a breakdown in class, because instead of seeing teachers in class, I saw people dying around me. And I thought there was blood around me. So I would run out of the class and go hide in the sick room for, and this continues for weeks without anybody knowing how to calm me down or make me realize that I was safe. Because I didn't still feel safe yet. I still felt that my life was in danger. And that at any given time, it was going to end. Because I was still in survival mode. Scared to sleep at night because I thought I would wake up the next day. Scared to eat because I thought there wouldn't be enough food. So I would just sit there and think, well, I'm not going to bother. If I want things bad enough, and if I don't have them, I'll be too disappointed. Because I've lived a life where things might just not happen for you. You might just not live to see the next hour. You might just not live to see to have your family around you. They might just die. Or you might just get raped. Or you might just be chosen, sold into slavery. Or just chosen to be a child soldier. So all of these things actually affected my health. So my school suffered. But I managed. And it was during this time I found out that, well, I had nothing else. They say when you hit rock bottom, there's no place else but up. And that's when I found my voice. Before this, I was a quiet child. You wouldn't believe it. I was, honest to God. We can call my mom on the phone. But now she can't shut me up. She's trying, but it's not working. But it was during this time when I was down, I realized I had to stop focusing inwards and focus outwards. Instead of just sitting and complaining about how terrible, life was, because I was coming from hell. Then I thought I was coming to heaven. But heaven didn't actually look like the way I thought it was going to be. For me, it didn't. So it was quite a disappointment. So I became depressed, and I thought to myself, why don't you stop focusing on yourself and focus outside? So I started volunteering. That's how I started volunteering. It wasn't because of a grand plan to win awards or to just go and give. It was because I needed to escape my life. And I needed to be more than myself. And actually stop complaining and whining and listen to other people for a change. So I did. I volunteered and I listened. While I listened, I realized there were many people suffering just the way I was. There were many people who needed help just like I needed help. And it was then that I found my voice. The voice that nobody can shut up now. But I found it. And while giving back, I realized that I had an obligation to speak up for those who couldn't speak up. So I started advocating. And I became the yes girl. I said yes to everything. I still can't say no. I have nightmares of the day I say no, what will happen to the world. But I still, I say yes to everything. But that was just part of me wanting to just not focus on me and my problems, but focusing on how I can make the world I live in and my community a better place. So I volunteered. So I run workshops for African girls who have gone through female genital mutilation. It's when the clitoris is cut off. This is a big issue for the girls in my community. So I do sexual health workshops for girls to try to get them to have make informed choices. But information is knowledge. Without the right information, how can you make the right choices in the world? You can't. So I run mental health workshop, getting them to recognize the symptoms of when they're stressed, what to do, asking for help. There's no shame in admitting you're stressed. There's no shame in admitting things are not going so well and going to the doctor and figuring out how to manage your stress so you can live a better life. And I progressed from there on. The workshops just kept on flowing. The organizations just kept coming. And people just kept coming and asking for help. And before you know it, I'm now the Young South Australian of the Year. That's how my life snowballed into this life. I managed to finish school with all my health issues and decided to study international studies and law as a double degree. And here I was, I thought the law I was going to study was the one you saw on TV. You know, it's going to get passionate and bang the table, you know, and tell them how it is. It's nothing like that, unfortunately. My passion was squashed a little bit. But then in my international studies degree, I'm majoring in developmental studies. So that's how to save third world countries. This is where I found another voice. So I practically run my classes now. Because sitting in those classes, I have to tell those people how it really is in Africa. How somebody who's never gone through poverty, how can you tell me you can solve it when you don't know how to go hungry for a day? You can't really, seriously. But I made it my job to teach people as well while I'm learning at the same time. And it's fun. I have to say, it's wonderful. But I think the class is usually quiet when I'm missing, I think. Yes. And I think my teacher has too much work to do when I'm not around. Yeah. But that has gone well. When we got here, my mom, who was a teacher in Africa, decided to study nursing. It was always a dream to be a nurse. And actually, I'm proud to say in March, this month, she's going to get her master's in nursing education. And her aim is to help to do some community work in the, you know, for African women and multicultural women, and help them settle in Australia and just help them look after their health and talk about their health issues, you know, and stuff like that. My sister, she's doing her a degree in international business and accounting. She's a lot more quiet. My mom is 10 times how loud I am. And yes, I got it from somebody, but she never admits to it. That's the problem. So in my house, I guess we have the law area, we have the nursing, and we have the business. My mom always wonders why I decided to study law. She wanted me to be a doctor, and I said I would talk too much, and then we'll never get to the treating part of things. So I decided to study law and politics, not because I want to be a lawyer or because I want to be a politician. I understand that our society is based on our legal system and our political system. That's where power is, that's where decisions are made. If you don't understand how they work, how can you make change? How can you change the system to help people who need help? So I'm not going to be a fancy lawyer. I'm not going to be a politician, even though people are trying. I keep saying no. I don't want to play that dirty game. No way. I just want to make a difference in whatever job I do, in whatever capacity. And that brings me to my current project. It's called Chocolate Magazine, and it's not about chocolate. No, it's not. It's about chocolate-colored girls like me. I think I'm caramel or mocha. I'm not too sure. Somebody will tell me what color I am. And we have light chocolate, we have dark chocolate. Chocolate magazine is for African young girls. When I pick up a magazine like Dolly, Cleo, and Girlfriend, they're targeting middle-class white girls. I don't see a lip gloss that looks good on me. I don't know whether purple actually looks good on a dark caramel chocolate girl like me. How do I know? But I guessed that it would look good on me. But it would be good if a magazine could tell me it looked good on me. I would love that. And I would love to have some hairstyles to go with my frizzy hair. You know? And I would love to know what, you know, and they go tan. What does tan mean? I mean, it doesn't work on me. And they go nude. What does nude mean? I mean, does nude work on brown? I'm not too sure if nude will work on me. So I decided to start my own magazine for dark-colored girls. We can talk about what tan looks like on us and whether purple looks good on my chocolate mocha color. So, but in between the fashion and the makeup advice will be political issues like talking about female circumcision. We have girls in Australia who have been circumcised. They were okay to be circumcised, but they were young. They didn't have a choice. They thought it was part of their culture. They thought it had to be done. Now we're living in Australia in a culture that says the clitoris is about everything. It's everything. You just have to open a woman's magazine to go, clitoris, 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 clitoris. It's like a clitoris world, you know? And we have girls who just don't have one. What to do with yourself? Do you just get depressed that you don't have one? Do you just, I have girls who say to me, I feel incomplete. I don't feel like a woman. I feel like I'm missing something. How can we help these girls come to terms with something that was not their choice? Being robbed of their womanhood. This is not about attacking a culture or saying it's barbaric, because there are things that are done in Western countries that are just as barbaric like that. People do stuff like that for cosmetic reasons. But it's about supporting them in coming to terms with who they are as women without clitoris, living in a society that is obsessed with the clitoris somehow. Clitoris, that's all I see. Trust me, just open a magazine when you leave here. There will be 2-3 articles about the wonderful ways of using the clitoris somehow, and how a man should learn where to find one. It's ridiculous. But it is depressing at the same time for a young 13-year-old girl who doesn't have one, who has to go to the hospital and say to the doctor, I don't have a clitoris. I want to have one down there. I want to be like the other girls at school. That is scary. It's bad. So I want to support girls like that. I want them to be able to talk about this and come to terms with their new identity. Another issue I want to talk about in my magazine is skin bleaching. Our girls think that they need to be light-skinned to be considered beautiful, or that light-skinned girls succeed. It's like how you think blonde people have more fun. It's how our girls think that if they're not light-skinned, I'm considered light-skinned actually, I'm brown but not that light, but they think they need to be lighter to actually be successful. And it's true. If you take a black girl and a girl like me to walk down the road, most women, old women, will grab their bags tighter when they walk, because they think we're actually going to rob them. But if I was to walk by, they don't actually act that way. But when a dark-skinned girl walks by, they actually will grab their bags. When we enter shops, if a dark-skinned girl enters a shop, the shopkeeper will follow them around, stalk you. What I do usually is then ask them ridiculous questions so they can bugger off, because it's annoying to be stalked. That's it. So talking about skin bleaching and the side effects, but making girls understand that they don't have to be light-skinned to be beautiful. Black is beautiful. That's why people tan. They want to be like us, naturally brown and chocolatey caramel. That's the whole point. We should celebrate that. But another issue I'll tackle in my magazine is domestic violence and its effect in our community, and the girls who have been raped, and teenage pregnancy. We have a high rate of teenage pregnancy, and it's not because it's their boyfriends who are actually getting them pregnant. Sometimes it's uncles, it's fathers, it's family members who are meant to look after them and support them and protect them. They're being abused. We need to talk about issues like this, and that's what my magazine is going to tackle. It's not all fluff about high heels and lip gloss and fashion. It's also about getting our girls to tell their story. Stories of resilience, story of survival. Some of these girls are orphans. Some of them have been raped during the war. Some of them have babies as a result of being raped during the wars. Some of them have no clitoris. Some of them are just plain simply all alone in the world. And that's what I want my magazine to tackle. And part of that of my magazine is also a Chocolate Sisters Club. There's a lot of chocolate in this story, my dear. Lots of chocolate. I'm actually going to get one of the chocolate companies to sponsor us. Chocolate and chocolate. Chocolate covered models. Yeah, that's a good idea. Very good idea. But our Chocolate Sisters Club is a group of girls who I'm providing mentoring for in the media industry. So photographers, makeup artists, graphic design, just getting them to think outside of the traditional female-oriented jobs like nursing and teaching. Getting them to think outside of the box and realize they can be more. So this weekend I was actually supposed to run a workshop on leadership and fashion for them, but I'll be doing that next week instead. So every Saturday from 1 to 2, I will be running workshops on health, sexual health, mental health, bleaching, circumcision, all the issues that they're going through, teenage pregnancy, just giving them advice and supporting them as, young girls living in South Australia, pretty much. And another aspect of Chocolate Magazine is the mother-daughter dinners and events I will be hosting. This is just to get mothers and daughters talking again. There seems to be a gap between the older generation and the new generation. And somebody said before that we, the younger generation, actually don't appreciate what you women have done. But I'm not one of those people. I actually appreciate the fact that your generation fought hard for women like young women like me to have what we have today. But the battle is not finished. We shouldn't become complacent. There's still a battle out there. There's still sexism out there. There's still gender inequality out there. As a black Muslim young woman, I am discriminated against in so many different levels. But what we all have to realize is that for women like us, sometimes It's the racism that probably we have to fight the hardest than sexism. It's not that sexism, being our gender is not as important, but our race is much more of a problem than anything else. Walking down the road the other day, somebody gave me the rude finger. I did nothing to them. They just felt like it. But that's the society we live in. So I'm trying to get mothers and daughters talking and speaking to each other and realizing that we have a lot in common, and starting those conversations and getting them to help, reduce the teenage pregnancy rates we have. I think that's as a result of people just not talking and getting advice from the older generation. I sit on different boards. I'm a board member of the National Council of Women and Soroptimus International, which some of you will know about. And they're all full of older women. And I love it. I love being around older women. It's like having aunties and a lot of aunties and mothers and grandmothers all around you. You feel good. And it's the support system I get, and it's the advice I get, and it's the wisdom they pass on, and it's appreciating the hard work they do on a daily basis, so I can have the privileges I have now, so I can have the opportunities I have now as a young woman, which before a couple of years back I wouldn't have had, but now I have. If there's any message I can leave with you guys today, besides my hands flying around and yelling and shouting and talking so fast, is that my story is not different from the stories of so many young girls out there. But what makes me different is that I have had so many obstacles, whether it was health or my past, coming from a war-torn background, or being a multicultural young woman living in a society like Australia, is that I didn't allow those barriers to stop me. I made a decision that there wouldn't be a barrier for me. Every single day I make a conscious step of waking up in the morning and saying, thank you, God, for giving me this life. Thank you, Australia, for giving me a second chance at life to be whoever I want to be, and the sky is the limit. I truly believe that. And I believe I was put on this earth to make a difference, and I think every single one of us here was put on this earth to make a difference. Let's play our part, no matter how small or big, because there are people in the world who are less fortunate than us, and we should always remember that and be grateful for what we have. Thank you. Are you happy with that? That's fantastic.